Welcome back. The Inspector General of the Capitol Police doubled down yesterday on a report claiming officers were ordered not to use heavy riot control weapons during the insurrection. Inspector General Michael Bolton testified before the House Administration Committee, laying out the details of an internal report released earlier in the week. He says an unnamed deputy assistant police chief made the call to hold back heavier weapons. Bolton also called for a massive overhaul of the force's training procedures and more focus on preventing future threats. The Inspector General's full investigation isn't expected to wrap up for another few months. And this comes as we mark 100 days since that attack on the Capitol. Our next guests were there with me, covering it all in real time.
From the balconies here, we can still see much the similar image to what you're showing on the other half of the screen here. Thousands of people still surrounding the outside of the building. Capitol Police do a great job, but this was a failure today.
We also see rioters outfitted with paramilitary gear and restraints entering the building. As you hear people yell things in other videos like, "Where's Nancy?" and "Hang Mike Pence." The reality is sinking in that lawmakers' lives were very seriously in danger because of a mob incited by the President of the United States.
I just want to say how heartbreaking it is to walk through the Capitol this morning and see the remnants of the damage that was done yesterday. It's just a very devastating sight. People's offices were ransacked. Not just one, many offices were ransacked. There were things stolen from people's offices as well. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, her big wood and gold placard over her office is missing. So, Stephanie, I've been taking a tour this morning. There's not a lot of people in there. It's pretty empty. I'm only seeing members of the architect of the Capitol who are surveying the damage, some members of Capitol Police who are doing the same. Of course, there's many questions about Capitol Police's role and what sort of investigation there's going to be in the aftermath. But it is a very, very disheartening aftermath and day up here on Capitol Hill.
And joining me now are the two reporters that you saw just there, NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Leanne Caldwell and Garrett Haake, also an NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent. Garrett, Leanne, thank you guys very much for getting up early to do this. And I also want to start by saying that we were surrounded by an incredible team of producers, Haley Talbot, Frank Thorpe, both of whom went through very difficult days as well. The crews that we worked with who are all right there with us inside and outside. So, Garrett, let me start with you as we mark 100 days, what you're feeling, frankly, right now about where we stand. Are you surprised at how this has been on the front or back burner of our national conversation since it happened, and where we go from here?
Well, I covered that IG hearing yesterday about the Capitol Police and the lead up to January 6th, and covering it made me mad all over again because I felt like the Capitol Police were set up to fail that day. And I think that's one of the things we've learned in the last 100 days. They weren't properly trained. They weren't properly equipped. They didn't have the intelligence that they needed to know what they were up against on that day. And they didn't stand a chance against, 10,000 people showing up at the Capitol. And so that has frustrated me from a coverage perspective and from a personal perspective as somebody who depends on the Capitol Police just like the rest of us do who are up there. I think the other thing that I've been reflecting on a lot in the last 100 days is this feeling of kind of a loss of innocence, if you will, with the Capitol, or puncturing of this air of kind of untouchability to that place. I mean, the Capitol is supposed to be one of the safest places in Washington. I told my girlfriend and my family and my friends on the 6th when we knew there were going to be big protests in D.C., don't worry about me. I will be in the safest possible place. And that hasn't been the case. And that it has changed the whole culture of that community. And you know as well as anybody, I mean, Capitol Hill is a community. It's a little city unto itself. And I think all of us have a new just a new feeling about where we get up and go to work every day that I don't think will ever be the same.
Yeah, I mean, Leanne, to Garrett's point, I mean, I was going back and looking at some of my text messages from the day, and I wrote to my husband saying, I'm not going to lie, driving into work, I'm a little nervous. And he wrote back and said, well, once you get inside, you'll be fine. And that has always been our assumption, certainly the assumption of lawmakers. Sure, there have been concerns, and I know you were there on 9/11 as well, of a foreign power attacking the Capitol or something like that. But I know I never imagined it would be attacked by our own countrymen. And the reality is this has also changed relationships among lawmakers and sown distrust in a way that has really changed the feeling of the place.
Yeah, that's right, Casey. I mean, you brought up 9/11 and the difference is a foreign attack. And that did bring members of Congress and that brought the country together for at least a little while. The difference here is that January 6th was inherently a political event. And that while in the immediate hours after, there seemed like perhaps politics are going to be put aside and perhaps bipartisanship and perhaps the country is going to come together to collectively heal from the lead up to January 6th, the post-election trauma from November. But that was extremely short-lived. The politics seeped into the discussion very quickly, as Democrats and Republicans know that continued discussion about January 6th reminds voters and reminds people about the former president and his role in the lead up to January 6th. And they think that puts them at a political disadvantage. And then, the media sphere is also very important here when you have conservative media who doesn't discuss this or downplays it. And you have a very large portion of the population who don't even think that it was right-wing militia extremists who were involved on January 6th. And what that has done on Capitol Hill, it has really, disintegrated the relationships where there is an inability to work across the aisle not because they can't get along, but because Democrats don't trust and do not want to work with people who still voted to overturn the election, even after this. And so it does have real life impacts on people and legislation trickling down the line, Casey.
Yeah, and people are flat out refusing to work together, which while in the past, maybe there were tensions and people didn't like each other, it's a new level of blanket. No, if you supported this challenge to the election, we're not going to work with you. Garrett, let's talk for a second about how this plays out going forward. The Republican Party has very obviously retreated back into a Trump-focused situation. We saw Nikki Haley, for example, talk about how she'd ask him if she was going to run for president again. But we've also seen some signs that perhaps the Republican Party actually suffered more than we may know in the wake of the insurrection. The Gallup polling, for example, may show that. Do you think ultimately the insurrection is going to have an impact on voters that we haven't seen yet?
It might, but it's going to depend on how it gets recast and when. I mean, I saw Ron Johnson the night of the attack in the tunnels, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I remember asking him if you take any responsibility for this, and he said no. I mean, this is someone who had voted to throw out the election results, who had been one of Donald Trump's biggest defenders. I'm very curious to see if he ultimately decides he's going to run for re-election or not, because he still actually hasn't said, and he's up this year. A case like that, where someone's voting behavior, their actual behavior in the lead up and in the fallout from January 6th would be on the ballot. To me, that's a good test case.
All right, Leigh Ann Caldwell, Garrett Haake, thank you both very much for getting up so early to do a little bit of reflecting with us. I really appreciate you both being here. And just to note, I wrote an essay about my experiences that day. You can read that right now. It's on today.com/news.
Hey, thanks so much for watching our YouTube channel. You can follow up on today's top stories and breaking news or catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.